guys, how's it going? Welcome to Exploring Light. I'm Sandeep Mathur, a landscape photographer based out of Delhi. Recently, we've been receiving a lot of requests for a post-processing tutorial for landscape photography. So I thought I will share with you a simple workflow on how I edit my landscape images. At the outset, let me tell you that this is not a beginner's tutorial, nor is it a Lightroom tutorial. We are merely sharing with you my approach on how I edit my landscape images. But we do assume that you have a working knowledge of Lightroom and Adobe's Camera Raw. However, even if you're a beginner or you use some other post-processing softwares, I'm sure you will find the approach interesting and you should be able to replicate it in any other post-processing software. I've divided this workflow into 6 sections. The first is exposure blending or exposure merging. Second is raw development. Third is shaping the light. Fourth, color grading. Fifth, color dodge and burn. And finally, we finish the image. In case you are one of those people who don't have exposures to blend, or you just don't like the idea of blending exposures, you can skip to the second section of raw development and the workflow will be pretty much the same after that. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Okay guys, we are now in Lightroom and this is our merge exposure section where we merge 3 exposures to have one image with the full dynamic range. I have 3 images here from Hamnoy in Lofoten, a very picturesque town. I'm sure you've seen dozens of images of this beautiful place. This is my normal exposure. This is my 0 exposure, and as you can see, I'm clipping some highlights and I'm also clipping some darks here, some shadows here. What does this mean? This means that my camera was not able to capture the entire dynamic range of this scene. How can we get around this problem? Some photographers would use a graduated neutral density filter. They would darken the sky, expose for the dark foreground, and end up with a picture with a complete dynamic range. I have a slightly different technique. I shoot exposure brackets. I shoot a normal exposure at 0. Then if I'm clipping some highlights, I would shoot a -2 exposure at say 0.6 seconds. And in this image, as you can see, I have captured information in my highlights, although I may have lost more details in my shadows. And then I take another exposure, which is my +2 exposure at 10 seconds. And in this image, I might have blown out my sky, but I would have beautiful details in my shadow areas. And there would be no noise, very clean shadows, and we could use this in the final merged image. So with that concept in place, let's merge these 3 exposures. We select all the 3 images. Right click, go to merge, photo merge, use Lightroom's HDR function. And this is Lightroom's HDR dashboard. The first option is to auto line. I would normally auto line even though I shot it on a tripod, but I don't want to take any chances. We want to uncheck the auto settings because we want to manually edit this image. I normally leave the deghosting at high and uncheck the stack. I press merge. Here we are. This is our final merged image. As you can see, it has a nice histogram. It would have all the dynamic range of the scene. So from here, let's move to the raw development section where we edit the raw image. Guys, welcome to the raw editing section of our Lightroom workflow, and we start off with setting the lens correction. Simple enough. Transform. Let's see the horizon if it's straight. Okay. Lightroom says no upright correction found. Okay. Let's go with that. Let's come to the basic panel, and the first thing that I normally do is change the profile. I like to start working with a completely flat profile. Adobe has a nice flat profile, and you will see that just by using this, the histogram compresses a little bit, gives us a little more leeway on editing this picture. Start making some small edits, reduce the highlights a little bit, open up the shadows a little bit. And again, I cannot stress this enough, guys. We want to do subtle changes. We want to make small changes, and in the end, we'll end up with a nice subtle edit. I would never ever recommend you to go this far, or maybe even go this far. So we want to do subtle edits, and we will have a nice picture in the end. Let's add some negative contrast. We will not touch the whites because we are already very close to the highlights, and the same with the blacks. In fact, what I want to do is add a little bit of plus blacks so that we get a little more leeway here. We add a little clarity, and what I want to point out to you guys is that the numbers that you see on the sliders is good for this image. A different image would demand a different setting. Keep that in mind, and we must always watch the histogram and adjust our image accordingly. And now we come to the most important part of our edit, that is setting the white balance. Setting the white balance is very important to this process because the kind of image you will end up with starts from the white balance. We are looking for a dark, moody kind of edit. So keep that in mind when we set our white balance. The way we are going to set the white balance is we are going to take some readings from different points in the image and try and average out and work from there. Let's take a reading from here on the road. Let's take a reading on this. I'm using the eyedropper tool, friends. And let's take a reading here. Let's take a reading on the sea here. Let's take a reading from here in the snow. And let's take a final one from here. So let's focus on the tint first, guys. I want a neutral tint. I want somewhere in middle. I don't want it to be leaning towards the greens or leaning towards the magentas. So if you recall from our values, we had a maximum value of +4 and a minimum value of -9. So that gives us a range of 13. If I divide 13 by 2, I take a mean, that's 6.5. So if I add -6 to my minimum value, which was +4, I end up with a figure of -2. -2, and that is going to be our starting point for the tint. Similarly, on the temperature, let's increase our vibrance and saturation to say 15, and our range was from 8,700 to 11,000. That was the complete range. So if I go to 8,700, let's see, 8700. This is 8700, and we've got a nice yellow color. We've got some magentas. I've got a nice blue, and if I go to 11,000, then we still have the colors, but this is a far warmer image. And since we were planning a dark moody edit, let's go to some of the cold values. Let's go to 8703. Okay. So that is the white balance. And now before we end this section, let's remove some of the distractions that I can see. Let's take the spot removal tool and let's get rid of. So with this, and we end our section on raw development, and I will see you in the next section where we shape the light. Okay guys, now we are in the shaping light section. Start with, let's make the image small, take the graduated filter, and I am pressing the shift key to keep my filter straight. and now I can edit the settings, add a little bit of highlights, open up the shadows because we don't want to darken the mountain, and make sure there is no color. Drag it down to the horizon, and here we add a little bit of blue color. So say hue is 221 and the saturation is 20, that's enough, and we just tilt towards the left hand side because we've got the warm tones coming from this side. We'll cool the other side. We add another filter for the sea. We want to darken this part because this is the negative part of the image. We don't want the viewers to focus here or the red houses here. So after these graduated filters, now we add a few radial filters. Let's introduce some light in our image. Put a big filter like so. We tilt it towards the red houses. We get the direction right. So it's, we can make it about 35. Add some highlights, add some shadows. Let's not touch the whites. We increase the blacks and add some clarity and reduce some the dehaze, say 10. And again we make sure that we have some color, say about 25 saturation, 32, that's good enough. And we add another one. We add another filter from here straight. Again, a big filter, and the only thing that we take care, we don't want to light up the mountain. We want to light up behind the mountain and make this mountain stand out. So the way we do it is we use the range mask and check the luminance mask and remove it from the mountain. That's it. Let's have a look. So what we are trying to do is make this mountain backlit. So we have a dark mountain behind some kind of a light, helps it to stand out, makes it more three-dimensional. Add another radial filter, 40, add a little bit of blue tones to it. Yeah, let's do that. And this time we add a big filter here. And let's uncheck this invert. So what it effectively is doing is it's darkening anything that is outside this filter. And we can reduce the feather a little bit to say about 75, so that we don't encroach upon our red houses. The only thing that I would like to do more before moving on to the next section is, as you can see, we have this big black town and the ugly LPG tank in this light. I would like to remove this light from here, and the way to do it is I use the brush tool, set it on erase, increase the flow to maybe 75, and remove this light from here. Let's see what we are erasing. Yeah, and now let's erase this light from here. So this is shaping light, guys. We are trying to add light to wherever we want our viewers to see, and we will remove light from wherever we don't want the attention to go. Because this is actually already bright and we might make it too bright. Okay, that is the before and after our light shaping. And now we move on to color grading the image in the next section. Okay guys, after shaping the light section, now we move on to color grading the image. I will head over to the split toning section. Let's look at these sliders here. We've got highlight sliders and we have the shadow sliders. What we want to do is push in some warm tones in our highlights and push in some cold tones or blue tones in our shadows. So I'll hold the Alt key and move the hue slider. This will give me an indication of saturated color on the slider, and I want to be somewhere between 30 and 35. Say, okay, 32 looks good. Let's add some saturation. Once I select my hue, I'll add some saturation, and not big changes, small changes. I think 25. I think 25 looks good. Let's leave it at 25. Similarly for the shadows, I hold the Alt key and move my hue slider to, let's stay between 220 and 225, say 222. And this is to be very subtle. Let's add, say, 10, not even 10. Okay. Let's see what the HSL sliders can do for us. Let's look at saturation. Let's add a little bit of red because I want the red houses to stand out. Say, okay, 14. Add a little bit of orange, say 10, 11. That's good. And let's add some blues. We can go a little further with the blues. Let's say 25. Let's look at the luminance. Again, we increase the reds a little bit. We want the red houses to stand out. Add a little orange, but we bring down the blues because we want to darken the blues. Again, we don't go too far, maybe 16 or 17. That's good enough. That is about it for our color grading section. Short section, but you will see that makes a nice impact on the image. So now let's move ahead to the color dodge and burn section. Now let's look at the color dodge and burn section. This is the what I call the icing on the cake. What is color dodge and burn? Dodging is we accentuate any highlights in the image, and burn we push the shadows. I like to call it color dodge because when we dodge our highlights, these tend to desaturate the object. So I like to add a little bit of color to my dodge. Let me show you how. I will select the radial filter. We add a small positive exposure. We add a little bit of clarity, say 10, and we add a little bit of I need to make my filter smaller, I hold the Alt key and that allows me to pull it back. After this, let's add some burn filters. Let's change the exposure to a negative exposure. Change the color to white. Change the color here. And that's enough for color dodge and burn. And let's move on to our final section, which is the finishing section. In the finishing section, the first thing, let's look at the details. This would be quite a clean picture, so let's just add 10% of noise reduction. We leave the sharpening at 40, radius at 1, detail at 25. I normally leave the masking at 0 because if you try and mask the sky out, I often find that it introduces edge glow. So let's leave it at 0. And finally, let's have a look at our basic sliders. Maybe I can add some contrast now. I'll keep a close watch on my histogram, make sure I'm not clipping anything. And let's try some of these profiles from Adobe. Typically I like the modern profiles, these ones, and it would really depend on the image. Let's look at this. No, that's too contrasty. 7 looks nice, but it's a little brown. 10 looks nice, could be a possibility, but I'm looking for something blue. Yeah, let's go with blue, with modern 4. Let's go with modern 4. This looks good, but not so much. We reduce the opacity to say anything between 10 to 12%. Let's go with 12. Let's go with 12. Close this, and that has introduced some clipping in our shadow areas. So let's reduce the blacks a little bit. And now we can make a micro adjustment to the white balance. Maybe add a little bit of magenta. So we've got nice color in our sky. We've got warm tones coming in from here. We've got a lot of negative space which has been subtly darkened. And finally, if I wanted to show you a before and after look, this is the before look. As you can see, the light is quite flat and there is no contrast in this image. And now after our workflow, we see a big change. So that is the conclusion of this workflow, and I will see you soon in my concluding statements. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey guys, if you're still around after that long tutorial, hats off to you guys. because that means you are die-hard photography fans. Well, I hope you found my Lightroom workflow interesting and you'd like to include it or a part of it in your workflow. I'd love to hear about that, guys, and if you have any questions, just drop me a line in the comments. The important part to remember is that the settings I've used in my Lightroom workflow are specific to this image and cannot be universally applied to any image. But as long as you are following the histogram, you are accentuating your highlights, you're pushing back the shadows, you're shaping the light, you will end up with a stunning edit. In case you would like to have the raw files I've used in this image, just drop me a line in the comments. All we ask for is that you like, follow or subscribe Xploring Light and me. And one word of caution, guys. The raw files I share with you are only for training. They cannot be used for any other purpose. If you would like me to edit your landscape images, you can send your raw files to me via email. I will put a link below in the description. And I will pick out one or two of the best suited images and put up a video of my workflow. Again, in case you like, follow and subscribe to Xploring Light and me, your images will have a better chance to get picked. We have more content like this lined up, and we will also shortly come up with an advanced post-processing tutorial for landscapes. So keep watching this space. Finally, this is me signing off. Goodbye and thanks for watching.